I take all the freshmen to Israel. I tell them when they're running, there's going to be an invitation. It's going to come. And I want you and your spouse, and I will lead it, and we'll spend a week. And it will change your life. You already understand the importance that America and Israel have. But that last night, there's not a dry eye in there when we're talking on our last dinner. There's not a stronger bond that is created. But on one of those nights, Miriam was there. And I left and I went and had dinner with her. And we probably spent 2 hours just telling stories of Sheldon. And I would tell her, there's no greater love I've ever seen between a man and a woman, between those two. And I wanted them to know what type of mentors and examples that they showed the rest of the world. Never a night apart. And she would tell the stories when they first met and go through. And one of my most exciting things that it's ever happened to me, before she left, she said, Sheldon would want you to have something. And she came down and she brought me a couple ties, a couple pocket squares. And I told her I can't wait to wear that as I bang the gavel down on the House of Representatives. Because there's so many reasons to use it. We watch anti-Semitism grow, not just on our campuses, but we watched it grow in the halls of Congress. You know, I made another promise to you last time. There was this congresswoman, Omar. That's a rightful boo. I remember what she said about me. I remember what she said about Israel. Remember what she said about the relationship. I remember it so much, I promised you last year that as Speaker, she no longer would be on foreign affairs. And I'm keeping that promise now. I'll make some new promises to you. We're not going to stay in Washington. We're going to take our committees on the road, and we're going to go to the halls of these colleges. We're going to stop the anti-Semitism and the movement that is happening in any place we see it. But I want to talk about Tuesday night. Some of you may be sad about it, but don't be sad when it comes to the House. I want you to talk about what is this new majority? Who got elected and where did we win it? We won it in New York, a lot thanks to Lee Zeldin as well. You know, I was texting with Lee today. He's on military duty
to democracy.
Otherwise, he's normally here. So he wanted me to give you his best wishes. But last Tuesday, it's roughly almost more than 4 million people voted for Republicans in the House over the Democrats. We actually have a percentage pretty equal to what we had, the difference between Republicans and Democrats than we did in 2010. But what they really wanted to end was that one-party rule. But I really want to talk about who's the makeup of this new majority. You heard from some of all already. You know, with Max Miller in Ohio, George Santos in New York, and you had David Kustoff from Tennessee get reelected. He introduced them. Do you realize we have the largest Republican Jewish caucus in more than 24 years? Not bad, huh? But we got a lot more room to grow. I'm always recruiting, so I'm looking at some of you right now. But let me give you another demographics of our new caucus. With the addition of John James in Detroit, Wesley Hunt in Houston, for the first time since Reconstruction, we have the largest number of black Republicans serving in Congress as well. You want another data point to give to your friends? With the election of Zach Nunn in Des Moines, for the first time since the 1940s, the entire Iowa delegation is Republican. And with the election of Lori Chavez DeRemer in Oregon, Anna Paula Luna in Florida, Anthony Diaz-Facido and George Santos in Long Island, New York, and Juan Ciscomani and Monica de la Cruz along the border, the highest Hispanic Republican population we have ever had as well. I tell you that because the party is growing. But it's not growing in just one area, it's growing across the country. We were competitive in almost every single state. When you talk to Dan Constant, who ran CLF, there are about 25 seats that we lost by less than 5 points. They haven't called them all yet. We're going to gain another seat in California. You can applaud that. But you know what? Do you know which seat got called for number 218? A congressman by the name of Mike Garcia. You can applaud Mike. Do you know Mike's background? First generation American, grew up in Southern California, went to the Naval Academy, flies F-18s off aircraft carriers, defend us in the Middle East. He runs for Congress in a seat that Biden won by 13 points. He wins it in a special. He keeps it. So we have redistricting. So they draw it to make it more democratic. Like, no Republican can win it. Well, you know what? How ironic is that? In the LA County, in a seat that Biden won by 13, Mike Garcia's number 218. That's his new call sign. So let's talk about why were we successful. I want to talk a little bit about that, but I heard Tim Scott talk about it first. I heard the nation talk about it. Under this one-party rule in 2 years, highest inflation in 41 years. But do you understand what that does to a society? The question everybody should be asked, could you give up 1 month salary? Could you give 1 month of your salary just up? 95% of America can't afford to do that, but the Democrats took it from it. You see, 1 month of your salary is 8.3% of your overall year. What's inflation? 8.3%. So they left you with 12 months of bills, but they only left you with 11 months to pay for it, so you struggle. Then this policy that you heard Tim talk about it more, of defunding the police. Not only did it make you scared, it made a border unsafe. He talked about those on the terrorist watch list. Do you know how hard it is to get on a terrorist watch list? You know, we caught 2 on different days from Yemen coming into California. Do you ever wonder, why are they coming? Who are they talking to? Or what do they have planned? I wish the president would wonder, because it just kept growing. You know what else happens? Fentanyl. You know what's going to happen today? 300 Americans are going to be poisoned and die. You know what's going to happen tomorrow? 300 more Americans are going to be poisoned and die. You know where that fentanyl comes from? From China to Mexico to the cartels up here. You know what the equality of 300 Americans is? What's equal to that? An airline crashing. What happened if an airline would crash every day for 3 days in America? We would all wake up and say we have a crisis, would we not? And we'd want to do something about it. Well, next Tuesday, I'm going down to the border again. We're going to get a new update. Because you know why? When I become speaker, we're going to move a hearing down on the border, and I'm going to make a bipartisan on both sides. Another promise I'll make you, I will not allow them to ignore it. As speaker, I'll have the meeting there. They make them all show and see what's happening. You know what's happening? Fentanyl kills the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. That's our most productive years in an economy. Those are the years of the individuals who serve in the military to defend us. It makes me wonder, why would somebody target that generation in America? Well, we should stop it, and stop it now. We've watched what they do to our parents who want to go to school board meetings. They go after them. They call them terrorists. We watched what they do with no check and balance. So we know why we won. Now let me tell you what we'll do with the majority. Well, the first thing we should do is keep our word. We told the entire country that we had a commitment to America. Our first commitment was to make an economy that is strong. How do you start that? Well, Reagan used to tell us, we don't have inflation when the people live well. We have inflation when government lives well. So we need to cut the wasteful spending in Washington right off the bat. We watched, he went after the energy industry. And look, I'm one who believes in all the above. Every study you see, we need to double everything we have, from wind to solar to oil to natural gas to hydro to nuclear, if we want to grow. But we ought to think differently. It's not just about the economy. Yes, we want people to be able to fill up their tanks and have money left over for groceries. But God has blessed our nation. Being energy independent makes this economy even stronger, does it not? More people at work. But we should take what God has blessed us, and let's not just sell it to our allies. Let's sell it to our adversaries so they're dependent on us instead of us dependent on them. You know, it's interesting. I would think about what was going on in the election, and it seemed a lot like 1979 in that last election, didn't it? I mean, when was the last time we had somebody elected to the White House, not by telling us what they would do, but telling us what they would not be? Jimmy Carter said he wouldn't be Nixon, and Biden just promised not to tweet. When is the last time we had Americans who were held hostage in the Middle East? In Iran under Jimmy Carter, in Afghanistan today under Joe Biden. When was the last time we had the strongest military in the world, second to none, but our commander-in-chief looks weak? Carter couldn't land the helicopters when he tried to rescue the hostages, and Biden wouldn't listen to his military when he created 13 new gold